Okay, hi everybody. Just to introduce Shannon Oliver Manfred Kerr, whom I have known for must be about 15 years or so now, since he was undergraduate. And Shannon was one of the leading lights of a art movement that was one of the better things that happened about 10 years ago in NCAD in Dublin, called the Fascinists, several of whom have gone on to shine and excel in the various spheres of activity. Shannon is a most energetic and individual, extremely deep thinker, and combines a sense of entrepreneurship in the best way, in the positive way, with a deep sense of creativity. I've read the material that he's produced. It sounds like a really exciting idea. And unfortunately, as I said to him, the situation, the financial pressures that the college is under at the moment mean that I wouldn't get approval to purchase a paperclip. But Shannon has got some really interesting and exciting ideas as to how creativity might be progressed in new and innovative ways that are kind of bang up to the minute and hopefully may escape some of the constraints of the old ways of doing things that we're all kind of enthralled to at the moment. So just to a few words then to introduce Shannon, and it sounds like a marvellous idea, and I wish it every success.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That was rather embarrassingly nice to hear. Okay, I'll turn on the old projector. Use the power of technology to turn this fucker on. It worked. It did work like 5 minutes ago, and I turned it fucking off. There we go. Right. Technology. So, yeah, I kind of need to dim the light so you can see that. Does anyone know what the camera switch is?
I think you just have to turn them off.
Okay. Well, that's kind of creepy. How about that? That's the control. The other one, just the last combination. No.
That's good.
Alright, okay, cool. Alright, I'll go through this now. Right, so special circumstance. So if you want to ask me about the name, please do ask me about the name, but I don't want to get into it. It's, I'm really proud of the name. It's very funny, at least according to me. Anyway, and it's also a sci-fi reference, Ian Banks. So there you go. There's your nerd points for you. Okay, special circumstance. I'm going to explain this in 10 principles. 10 principles, these are going to kind of basically take me through the concept and explain this more in a sense of what the problem is and why I think what I'm proposing is at least something of a solution towards it. Okay, so special circumstance. Principle 1. The arts are a winner-take-all market. What is a winner-take-all market? A winner-take-all market is one where small differences in performance leads to huge differences in result. So by that, take an example of sports. If you're a fraction of a second and you're the fastest sports person, you're going to be X time more wealthy than the person who's a fraction of a second slower to you. The same applies in entertainment. The same applies to the arts. And generally, a winner-take-all reward structure has long been common in entertainment, sports, and the arts. That's from a book, The Winner-Take-All Society by economist people. There's another quote. Because artists' occupations are more unequal than the labour force generally, the opening up of new opportunities for female artists is likely to be more restrictive in their economic rewards. So this is what a winner-take-all society looks like. So here is figures from 2008 that show you the average earnings, median earnings of artists. First thing I want to draw your attention to, average is twice the size of the mean. Generally, statistically, that means there's a large distortion towards the top end rather than the bottom end. If the average is twice half the size of the mean, it would mean the other way around. Secondly, here you have that thing I was talking about again. Women earn half what men do, which is a disgrace, to be perfectly honest. 70% of art students are women, 60% of artists are female in Ireland. And as I was saying before, one of the reasons why this is, it's not because people in the art world are necessarily sexist, but the winner-take-all economic dynamics are more unequal than society in general. So you see this inequality represented more strongly in the arts world because of the winner-take-all thing. That doesn't mean sexism doesn't exist, but I'm saying that these dynamics maximise that type of sexism. And you also obviously get people, that type of thing affects young people, it affects minorities, doesn't just affect women and that, obviously affects most. Okay, good news by the way, I don't want to make everyone think the art world is terrible. There is ways out of this. So here, an image from Cindy Sherman's 1981 Centric won the highest price at auction for a photograph. Now that was changed by Gursky a year later, but still, I think this quote is very interesting. It's probably no accident that Miss Sherman works in a medium that only recently has been elevated to the status of art and is not overwhelmed by a legacy of male geniuses. It was also the Shikia Mayasa Alfani who bought that, and she's the richest art collector in the world. She's also a woman. She's the daughter of the Qatar regime. That's from The Economist. Okay, so that's principle one. Out of the way, done. That's the economic shit out of the way too, by the way. So, you can have it there. Okay, I'm going to take 2 and 3 together very quickly. Entrepreneurs' businesses are like artists and do acknowledge it. Artists are like entrepreneurs' businesses, but don't acknowledge it. Easiest way to prove this without getting too much into the bullshit, the old traditional Google search. So exact terms, 3,320 for entrepreneurs are like artists. And when you reverse that, you get 66 results. So basically, you can say from that, entrepreneurs are 50 times more likely to call themselves artists than artists are to call themselves entrepreneurs. Point proven. Okay, number 4. The main similarity between artists and entrepreneurs is a desire for autonomy. And I'm going to play a clip that emphasizes this point, and let's hope it works. It's from Chris Rock, Kill the Messenger. And is this going to play?
But I'll tell you this right now. Now I have a career. I've been blessed with a career. So if you got a career, thank God. If you got a job, I hope you get a career one day. That's right. Because when you got a career, there ain't enough time in the day. There ain't enough time. You got a career, you look at your watch, time just flies like, God damn, whoa, it's 5:35. Damn, I gotta come in early tomorrow and work on my project. Because there ain't enough time when you got a career. When you got a job, there's too much time. That's like, you look at your watch like, shit, 9:08. You don't even trust the time when you got a job. You like, what time you got? 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 9:15? Whoever got the latest time is the right time. He got the right time. He got the right time.
So the point is with that clip is that if you're an artist and you're watching that clip, you're going to be agreeing. If you're an entrepreneur, you set up your own business, you're going to agree with it in the same way because entrepreneurs and artists have the same motivation. They want to, in its essence, they want to be their own boss. You don't want anyone else telling you what to do. So that's what I'm saying entrepreneurs and businesses have most in common. And also, when people think about money and wanting to make money, this book, Dan Pink Drive, there's a YouTube talk that's very good where he talks about it. But in this book, he talks about motivation. And one of the things he actually comes up with is that money is absolutely shit at motivating people. It's good at motivating people for doing rudimentary tasks. So if you have a box and you want to say, I want you to pack loads of books in that box, and you give someone €1 for every book, after 10 minutes they'll have packed more books than someone who hasn't given a reward. But if you give someone a complicated task that involves a degree of thinking, like say a Rubik's Cube, and you say, I'll give you 10 quid to solve that in 10 minutes, they'll perform worse at that task than if you tell them just to do it with their own interest. So that's what I'm saying. Also, money is a really shit motivator. If you're interested in making money, you're not going to get it anywhere. You need to be interested in yourself. You need to be interested in doing. Another thing about motivation, by the way, which is really interesting, if you visualize the end goal, as in you visualize the late interview, or you visualize yourself on top of the pops, or whatever thing, or whatever the hell it is you want to be able to do, that's a very bad motivator. Actually, that demotivates people and people perform worse. What you want to visualize in your head to get shit done is you want to visualize yourself doing the thing you need to do. You do that, you visualize that, that's how you get stuff done. That's what the science says anyway. I'm not a scientist, I'm a fine art graphic. Okay, so principle 4. The main similarity between artists and entrepreneurs is desire for autonomy. I'm going to call that Proven. Okay, 5 is a bit waffly, but you'll have to bear with me. If you have an idea for business, you can apply with a team to enter into a startup accelerator. Startup accelerators take ideas by placing teams in a communal studio space through a process of talks, mentorship, hard work, and applying proven methodologies, turn them into investable, high-potential startups over a relatively short period. Startups that go through this process have a high success rate and secure an investment, 50+%. So by investment, they mean here that a startup will come in with an idea. It's like, say, I want to, cut queues when people are queuing for sandwiches, something like that, and I think this could be $1 billion business. You have to prove this, you go through it, and after you come out with the process with all it proven, and you can go to an investor and say, if you give me 100 grand to do this, I will give you $1 million back. So that's kind of what you're looking to put into it. Now, that's proven because, it is self-evident, really. I've been in startup accelerators, by the way, so I've seen these things in action. Special circus on 6. A similar format could be implemented in our college. So what I mean is artists are similar enough to businesses in terms of what they do, and they're motivated by autonomy. And you have this communal space in an art college. You're living in it's like a little village, you live in each other's back pockets and all that kind of jazz. So when I say a similar format could be implemented in our college, that's what I mean. And I'm going to check that off as proven. 7, hypothetically, as talent is innate, and business know-how is common sense, it should be easier to teach creative people how to do business than business people how to be creative. In reality, you tend to get the reverse. Again, here's another clip. This is from Fran Lebowitz in the really excellent film Public Speaking. I think you should all watch it. It's Martin Scorsese documentary, and I think it's the best one he did since that comedy one, Robert De Niro, that escapes my mind. The King of Comedy. Yeah, I think it's a great film. But anyway, here we go.
See, what we have had in the last, 30 years is too much democracy in the culture, not enough democracy in the society. There's no reason to have democracy in the culture. None. Because the culture should be made by a natural aristocracy of talent. Okay? I mean, by which I mean, it doesn't have to do with, what race you are, or what country you're from, or what religion you are. It should have to do with how good are you at this thing. And that is a natural aristocracy.
And broadly speaking, she's backed up by the evidence. There was 10,000 hours stuff came out a few years ago from Malcolm Gladwell. Actually, that has been also debunked. Really, it is about time. Here's some professor talking about it. The evidence is quite clear that some people do reach an elite level of performance without copious practice, whilst other people fail to do so despite copious practice. So, so there are natural people who are naturally talented and get things straight away, and then there's people who will never get anything straight away. So there is such a thing as an innate talent. That's the point I'm making there. Business is common sense. That can be a bit dodgy, but I mean it on this sense. I mean, businesses anticipate what people do. And fundamentally, what a human brain is a pattern recognition machine. So when I mean businesses is common sense, that's one of the things I mean. Secondly, planning and organising. Planning and organising is crucial. You need to know what you're doing next. And once you know what you're doing next, then you know how much it's going to cost. So then you have funding and budgeting. And funding and budgeting, being able to actually say how much something's going to cost off the clip of fingers is really bloody useful. Because I was in a situation like that about a year ago where I had this project called the RSET Infographic Project. And it was an idea where you have a website and you explain to people how the economy is working. Because back in 2011, oh my God, I was so pissed off about the economy and no one else was. Well, other people were obviously. But I wanted something where people could actually understand what was going on. But it didn't work out for lots of reasons. But I was in a situation where I met David McWilliams and I kind of told him about the idea. And he said, oh, it's a great idea. How much do you need? I didn't know what to say. But the fact is, if I knew in my head, if I planned this out in advance, if I had a figure to give him, I probably would have been able to start working on that the next day. Because, someone like David McWilliams can give you money and give you the access you need. So are businesses artists? No, they're not artists. Businesses are not artists. No one wants to buy art from a businessman, as someone told me over the phone once. Though for some reason they do buy it from IKEA. That is true. I think that's rather unfortunate. Let's take that off. Okay, 8. An art accelerator will be different in that the process would involve beginning with an idea and coming out with it fully funded and ready to be worked on. So it wouldn't necessarily be a guarantee it'll be funded, by the way, but we'll show you how as best as we can. There are numbers. You have a percentage chance. For example, if you do with a crowdfunding campaign 30 updates, according to Indiegogo, that increases your chance of making your target by 800%. So there are things you can do to make sure you do it right. So I'll check that off. 9. Such a program would have the added benefit of rapidly upskilling students in real-world know-how. So, one of the reasons I did the Students' Union 10 years ago is because I was frustrated with the idea that they don't teach you the real-world shit. And I wanted to do the Students' Union because I wanted to be exposed to that kind of knowledge. And it kind of worked, and it kind of didn't work. But, this has been something that's in my head. And yeah, I was an art student 10 years ago. I'm assuming this problem is still consistent from talking to art students recently. So, blah, blah, blah. The kind of education generally accepted is lacking in art colleges. Yeah, well, you know this yourselves. I don't need to fucking prove it to you. Take that off. Lastly, the program will be documented online in such a way as art students and artists outside of the process will be able to access as much learning as possible. So this program I am proposing here, I want to do it so that everything is created online. We could only take so many people into the program, but I want to document the work and make the learning available to people outside of the process because I want as much people to benefit from this as possible. And it is hoped this will create a network effect. Well, what's a network effect? What do I mean by that? Okay, so classic definition of a network effect is with the telephone. So when 2 people own a telephone, it's useful, but when lots of people own a telephone becomes more useful. That's the traditional definition. What I'm talking about something slightly different. So this year, I was involved in this group, Dublin Filmmakers, and I was sort of frustrated being a member of it because I felt it was really difficult to get involved. They make about 2 films a year, and they had like 700 members. To me, that's nuts. So I proposed this idea where people did 24-hour film projects regularly, just to kind of, to help shake that up a bit. And pre-24-hour projects, there are fewer projects, 2 per year, a less active membership, 700 members of the page on the website meetup.com. Auteur high art model. So this is the idea that the films are based around the auteur, one person's vision. So they write it and they direct it, and it's their baby. And because of that, it's associated with status. I'm not saying art. I think one of the problems with art is that it's too bound up in the idea of being perfection, in the idea of it has to be high. I'm not necessarily saying you don't have to have a high culture, but I think sometimes when you have a high culture, it's more about excluding people than it is about actually being a high and better culture. One example of this that I always tell to people, I was at this show in Temple Bar Galleries in December 2012, I think. It was Liam Cunningham, really good show, and he had all this stuff in the middle, and he had soundtracks around the place, and you could put on your headphones, play the turntables, and listen to it. It was a great show. And I look outside, and it starts raining. And it's like, imagine if you're in a tent and someone opened up a bag of peas on top of it. That just kind of crashing sound. And you look out the window and you suddenly realise all these people, they're running into shelter, into the pub, into the shop. No one is thinking about going into the art gallery. Like, the idea behind art puts people off. And it's almost like God, I thought to myself, watching the rain, God couldn't make people see contemporary art and art. So that's what I mean with the problem of auteur high art model. It's a complicated thing. Outsiders brought in, and then this is another problem. So you have the auteur, and then they're bringing in people from outside of the group. They're bringing in actors from outside because they want a certain type of face, or they're bringing in director of photography from outside. So again, that means the group doesn't work as well. So post 24-hour projects. Yay! Okay, more short projects per now. You have 1 per week, at least. That's a conservative estimate. I have the Dublin filmmaker people here, by the way, who are filming this thing, so you can ask them if I'm bullshitting later. You have a more active membership, so that means more people are doing stuff, because you have 24-hour film projects happening regularly. So you're getting 4 films made every 2 weeks under this system. Collaborative, whatever works model, as opposed to the auteur model. So you get it done, and you get it done fast. And you're more concerned about having a result that you're all happy with rather than trying to go and reach this perfect vision. Again, I'm not saying you don't do that, but I'm saying early in your career, I think it's probably better just to fucking do stuff and get it done fast and learn these skills. Because if you are a good artist, you will become a better artist the more you do it. But these fundamental skills, being good at planning, being good at marketing, good at budgeting, all that type of stuff, you're going to need to know that stuff, because eventually, if you do make it as an artist, you're going to meet someone who knows that stuff better, and they're going to screw you over, probably. Less talk, more do. Again, this meant for per talk, I was involved in one of the projects with Dublin filmmakers. I'd say there were about 15, 20 meetings before we made the short film, and we shot the short film in 2013. It still hasn't been edited yet, nearly a year later. Okay, so less talk, less sitting around talking about stuff. Being a member of an art group, you sit down, you talk about stuff. You don't do stuff. You do stuff, you learn to trust each other because you learn better what people are capable of. People aren't talking and saying, I can do that. You've seen it with your own eyes. Because, people bullshit. It's just a natural thing, except for me, of course. More opportunity to get involved. Again, more films happening, more people can get on it. Longer projects, series and films. So, from this 24-hour project, I only put together 3 of them, but this was enough for it to kind of get its own momentum. Now, they used to do 2 films a year. Now they're working on 5 feature projects. 5 feature projects. A TV show called The Northsiders has, I don't know, 1,000 likes, something ridiculous. I think one other web show and 3 feature films. That's another group, again, that was only doing 2 short films a year. And it's a bit like South Park. What I mean by South Park, as in there's this great documentary called 6 Days to Get the Thing Done or whatever, and it shows how the people of South Park actually make their episodes. It's really interesting, because when they first did it, it took them 6 months because they had to do it by hand. It took them ages. But they actually figured out with computers that you can make an episode of South Park in a week. And that's what they do. They make 1 episode of South Park a week. They come up with the idea on the night the last episode is shown, and they sit down, they bash it out, and they can say, right, this is our idea. They hand it to the animators stitch it together. It's done in a week. That's the kind of thing I think that people should be using technology to. Make it as fast as fucking possible. You do more shit, you will get better faster than if you just try and do the perfect thing you want to get right. Because ultimately, no one's baby is perfect. And builds trust. The main thing is it builds trust. It means I know this person is reliable. I know this person will put their money where their mouth is. Once people trust each other, people do more stuff with each other. People like each other more. That's really important. So that's it. Film network. I want a network of art students, and there's my 2 generic images of art students: one guy in a toga and one girl in dirty jeans. That made me laugh anyway. A network with art students. We're fashion. I have a dream. We're fashion students. Sit down with phys comm students and fine art students. Blah 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 blah. Because you're in your own department, and really, if you want to do something creative, you have all the skills and all the know-how in this college. It's insane. You can have costumes from fashion. You can have props from industrial design and sculpture. You can have videos and promotion from students and media. You have design from visual communication. You can take all these and maybe get students from outside of the process. People like working on creative things. People like working with artists, when they're not stuck up their own arse. So that's the idea. That's what I'm hoping this will create. I'm hoping this will create a situation where first years, third years, second years, whatever department will have a framework where they can work with each other and form their relationships now, but also in the future when you want to do the bigger stuff. So, 10, the program will be documented in such a way, blah, blah, already covered that, check. Okay, so, how does this work? Right, so from your angle, the first thing you do is you send an email to register to scncad@gmail.com. I'll put this up later. By the way, talk is being filmed, so if you're taking notes, you don't really have to. Application form and pamphlet, so in return, I'll need a day or 2 to get this together because I've been working on this goddamn talk for the last 2 weeks. But yeah, I'll send you an application form and pamphlet, explain it all. And 3, decide. So by this I mean we're going to ask you in the application form to fill out your idea of what you want to do, but also ask you what it is you want to do with your life and that kind of stuff. Because I want a sense of kind of what people want to do and to try and figure out from what people have applied what's done. But I also want people to talk to each other about what could potentially be possible if we all work together and do something. Do you want to create a media empire, for example? Do you want to say, right, let's have one big fuck-off website where we do the podcast, we do the blogging and all this kind of jazz, and we work together and we build ourselves up and we take over the goddamn art world? But you can do that. You can do that if you plan it well enough. So decide amongst yourselves. Do you want to do a musical? What would you ideally like to do right now? If you could do anything in the world with your life right now, what would you want to do? Think about this. The deadline's going to be in about 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, talk to each other, all that kind of jazz. And lastly, of course, you fill in your form and you apply. So that's that out of the way. Anyone guess what that is? No one gets it. 20 places. So there's only 20 places. That is because we figure 20 places is about the most we can process through this. But like I said, we want to document it online, so we don't want it to be an exclusive thing. We want people outside to be able to follow along. But with 20 places, we figure that's the most manageable number. We reckon there'll be about 5 teams. But again, it kind of depends on the application, what people want to get out of it, so I'm leaving it loose. But in my head, 20 places is what it is for now. And database, oh yeah. Yeah, that's another good pun. Database. The idea is when people apply, we also want to have a database so people have their skill sets there. So when people are working on projects and someone says, I'm interested in learning about marketing, or I know a little bit about marketing, you know what that person is, and you can reach out to them within the college. And again, that lets you build up relationships. Yeah, the network effect with art students. Processing applications. What we're going to look for, firstly, representative. So we want something that is fair to students and broadly representative of what students in general want to do, because that means then that the people inside of the project and what they're doing will be most relevant to students outside of the project. I'm tempted maybe to do a blind test actually, but I'll talk about it later. I might have to go into that in the Q&A. But the blind test is the idea that you don't identify people's gender in the email. And apparently when people do this, women tend to perform better in the results. I'm not going to put in place a quota system, but I do want something that would be ideally 70 women, 30 men, because that's roughly the demographics of the college. And again, I want it to be representative. But at the same time, I don't want to be thinking, oh, well, we've got 7 women now we need X amount of men. So I'm not going to say quota system, if you know what I mean. But it's really done in that spirit. A relevant experience, skill, interest. So if you have relevant experience, relevant skills, or you're just interested. You're just like, I want to find out about this stuff. I think this stuff is interesting. You know, again, obviously that's something we'll be looking for. Who can commit the time? So realistically, some students have more free time. Some students have part-time jobs. So you need to realistically be able to give up some time between January and June each week in order to be able to do this. You might need to drink less. You might need to, go out a bit less. Something like that. It'll probably involve giving up some time. So you need to be serious. If you want to apply for this, make sure you have enough time. Because, it's going to be very intense working on it and all that kind of jazz. Good communicators, talkers, writers. So again, it's important that the people in this process are able to communicate it, not just in and of itself, because that is a good skill, but because that means they can also share the learning more effectively with other students. Okay, so processing applications. Once picked, we finalise the calendar. So once you've picked the people, we'll sit down with them and we'll figure out exactly what the calendar is to make sure we're not doing something when half the students have buggered off to New York or something like that. So that's that. And calendar and timescale, I'll just quickly take you through what we're proposing to teach over January, February, March, April, and May, to give you a sense of what it's about. So month 1, who are you? This is about branding. This is about getting down the bare essence of what it is you are actually saying, trying to say it as minimally and as simply as possible. That's really what this is about. Other things we're going to touch on is a business model canvas. This is a way of doing a business plan. Rather than writing it down, it's a visual thing. So you have the different elements of a business together working visually. You have your customers, your channels, all that kind of jazz. And you work on it visually, it's a much easier, faster way of getting through a business plan. Business plans are kind of a waste of time in a sense. Business plans are only really good for getting along. February, we're going to do your audience. So who are the people you're going to be talking to? Getting the sense of who they are, where they go, what websites they read, all that kind of jazz. You engage with them, you talk to them, you make them excited about your idea, you get them involved. Because if you reach out to enough people, you don't have to sell. Within the demographics, there'll be a few people who have a lot of money. And if they like what you're doing, they probably won't have any problem throwing it your way. So, March, you're in sales, get over it. This is sales, time project management. So we're talking about getting the funding together. So we talk about how do you ask for money? Who do you go to? Who has the money? Where is the famous money tree so you can shake it and dance in the rain of money and all that kind of jazz. Legal aspects, project management and all that kind of jazz. And in March now we start putting the funding campaigns together. Mostly it's probably going to be crowdfunding, but there's other ways of doing it. There's a site, for example, Patreon, which I think is a really interesting model, where you can have patrons, people who give you €1 a week just because they like what you're doing. So we're going to explore stuff like that and what works for you in that. April, show me the money. So now we're running the funding campaigns. Oh my God, there's a little typo there. You always notice the fucking typos when you're doing the presentation. Anyway, show me the money, cost, financing, budget, all that stuff. Social media, we get into the metrics of social media. So how to make sure what content you're doing is effective. It's the idea that ideally you want 100 people coming to your art exhibition opening rather than 10 people. And if 10 people did come, you want to know, what did I do wrong? How can I do it better? Because, ideally you're making art because you want people to see it. Or maybe you're not. May, project work, run funding campaigns. So over April, we'll be running the funding campaigns. and all that kind of jazz, and we're doing it effectively. May, we then have the launch night. Hopefully all the projects will be funded, everyone will be happy, we'll have a big party, and you guys will be ready to get stuck into your projects and get working on them full time, getting the things done. And that is the outline. So the objectives, what we hope this will create. Okay, 1, create a network effect. Went through that already. Upskill a large body of students in fundamental entrepreneurial real-world know-how, not just how to raise funds, find an audience, kind of how to do all that jazz. Instill a can-do mentality, don't ask for permission mindset in students. If you have a good idea and enough driving wit about you, you can make it happen. Here's how. So I think that idea of don't ask for permission is really interesting, because I read this really interesting blog about The Social Network, the film about Facebook. And this guy was one of the tutors for Sean Parker, the guy who set up Napster. And he said he liked the film, but it totally missed the point. What's unique about Facebook is that this is the first time someone has built a global dominating company without asking for permission. That's the thing. He didn't have to, like Microsoft had to partner up with IBM in order to become Microsoft. Facebook didn't need to do that. So there is a potential to go out there when you have online communication, when you can reach 7 billion people, have 1 billion people see your video if it's suitably, whatever the fuck makes people want to watch a video at the times. To help students take advantage of new opportunities online, crowdfunding, Bitcoin, YouTube. The quantified self is kind of one thing I'd be interested. Quantified self is the idea that you measure yourself with your phone, how well you sleep after you eat certain foods and stuff like that. Because I'm not necessarily saying you have to live healthily or anything like that, but maybe start thinking about yourselves in terms of how an athlete thinks. You are athletes. If you want to be an elite, think of yourself like an athlete would think of yourself. You could still be Francis Bacon and paint hungover and drunk and all that kind of jazz if you want. I was a bit of a naughty boy when I was in college, my day. So to foster a mini entrepreneurial ecosystem, in an entrepreneurial ecosystem, your project doesn't work out, there's always someone else's you can work on. So it means that when you learn something, even if for some reason you can't apply it on your own thing, you can apply it to someone else's and you can help them out. And lastly, to showcase what art students and young creators are capable of, to demonstrate that neither art degrees nor the people who possess them are useless. So, for the last 4 years I've been working in business, and I've gone through this business education, and I've seen how kind of effective a lot of it is, and it just drives me mad, because I think that this would be so effective in our college. And kind of one of the reasons I'm doing this is because it just struck me as, God, they should be bloody well doing this in our college. I wrote to people, I said you should try this out, talk to me and all that kind of jazz. You generally don't do that, Lesson in life to bear in mind, if you want to do something, you have to do it your bloody self. But anyway, there is a perception that art students aren't useless. Here is my favourite example ever, and I think also this is the funniest thing I saw all summer. So here is Aidan Dunn's review of the degree shows. Ooh, did he mention me or not? I wonder what. Topics, culture, art and design, Al Weiwei, Damien Hirst, Hans Ulrich Obrist. I have no idea what Damien Hirst, Al Weiwei, or Hans Ulrich have to do with the NCAD graduate show, but broadsheet art writers are one of the worst scoundrels, I think, on the planet. One comment on the article. So, one comment on this article has been, was it art students commenting on it? Was it, something else? One person who was interested enough to comment said, get a real job. So, I thought that was hilarious anyway. Okay, so it's up this program, blah, blah, blah. Partners. My partners on this are the Centre for Creative Practice. They're based on Pembroke Row. They specialise in giving artists this kind of education, entrepreneurial, artistic entrepreneurship. They do loads of courses, and they're very enthusiastic about this. They ran a Profitable Artist Boot Camp there in October last year. No, was it last year? Yeah, it was last year, literally a year ago, 2013. I went to that because I was interested in seeing how you can make up money from art and all that kind of jazz. It was very successful because the artist group formed out of it Ager, and we have a show now, this art group, kind of from sitting down, meeting, applying these techniques. There was a show in New York, it's ongoing at the moment. Here's the pictures from the show. If you look at the top corner there, you see Holzier, the guy's number 2. He played at the opening of the show. 2 days later, he played in Saturday Night Live to an audience of millions. So this is a great success. This did well. This proves that this kind of know-how is doable, but I'm talking about doing this type of stuff and going a bit further as well. Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the Students' Union, even though they're not here, and the Centre for Creative Practice. I'm going to turn on the light now and ask for questions, and there is email address. I'll leave that up. So have the subject apply so I know looking to apply. You don't have to write anything in the email. If you want to ask questions on that as well, put questions in the subject and I will answer it. All right, so lights. Questions?
What is the rough breakdown of time within each month of time you have to give to it?
Hypothetically, we're thinking maybe 2 evenings during the week and 1 day at the weekend. Around about that, probably what we'll do with each block is I'd like to do an intensive 48-hour project each month where we kind of sit everyone down. You've got 48 hours to all work on this. Over that weekend, we sit down together and we talk about what people did. So that's roughly what I have in mind for it. So, yeah, I'd say possibly 2 evenings and a full day at the weekend. Roughly 2 days a week, if people can do that. I mean, if no one can do that, we'll figure something out. Again, we're going to mold the course and how you do it based on your applications and all that kind of jazz too. So we'll try and make, accommodate students as much as we can. And obviously, busy people are good people. If you want something done, ask someone who's busy, because busy people aren't lazy. Any other? Yeah?
Are you telling us to take initiative and make money ourselves and get funding ourselves, or are you offering to give us funding if we get picked?
I'm not offering funding, but we're going to show you how you do it, essentially. We're going to show you how you plan a project, how you brand it, how you find the people who are going to be interested in your idea, and then how you raise money and the type of things you do to do that. Through things like crowdfunding, Patreon, through getting there's a book, the Business and Yada Yada book. It's a list of all the business people in Ireland. You write to them and ask them for money. And if you write to enough of them, they'll give you money.
Essentially, you could sign up and not make any money, just depending on your luck.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, there's no certainties in life. I can't guarantee anyone's going to come out of it. All I can do is kind of give people the best. And sometimes things don't work, but I suppose you want to fail with your eyes open. Like if you do fail, we'll teach you enough so you'll know what went wrong. But anyway, things work out. You have enough energy, you have enough momentum about it. Things usually work out. Like I said, startup accelerators have a 50% success rate in securing funding, but they're looking for something very specific. They're looking to say to an investor, you give us 100 grand, we'll give you $1 million back. We're looking for something much more simple. You could look to raise 1 grand to do a really cheap musical over the summer or something like that. We try and do something that will be both realistic and, I suppose, achievable.
So it's like 4 groups of 5, is it?
Yeah.
And how does that work? Is it 1 project per group, or?
That's what we're thinking. 1 project per group.
And
yeah.
How does that project get picked?
It's like I said.
Are there people there to support that project?
Yeah. We'll see kind of how the application goes and what people want to do, because I want to kind of, like I said, I want it to be representative. So I want to tailor it so it gets the best for the students in it and outside it. So there's a balance there. One of the other things we'll be looking to do as well as we're doing the course is maybe for the 20 individual artist art students on it, if they're interested in certain fields, we'll try and reach out to people who are in those fields and set up those connections. But, you can do that yourself, as well. It's like you said, we're going to document this so people outside can follow along and do it. And the hope is that everyone in our college will maybe, hopefully, start doing stuff like this and get more active and more effective.
So, like the other 4 are there to support the one.
Again, here's kind of how I see it. I don't think our projects would be ideal because, like I said, the problem with this one person's baby, it has to. All 4 people have to feel they have a part in it, because that's how the motivation works.
Yes.
People won't be motivated to work on it if they don't feel they own it. No one wants to work for someone else. People want to feel like they're working for themselves. So if ideas are selected, people who come up with the ideas, we have to be willing to let them go to a degree for the other people.
So maybe 5 would get together and create something.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it could be anything. It could, like one idea off the top of my head would be, say, 4 fashion students get together and they decide we want to get Anne Wintour, the editor of Vogue, to our fashion degree show. So they do a crowdfunding campaign to raise 5 grand to get her into a hotel. It could be something like that. It could be anything, literally anything. But ideally not art, because we might have an art project. You can do, there's such a thing kind of as crowdfunding art, weird things that get funded because it's kind of a joke. There was a guy with potato salad a month ago who raised 20 grand for his potato salad in Kickstarter. There's another thing in Kickstarter a few days ago I saw called the No Phone. It's like a rubber phone that doesn't work. It's just a lump of rubber, and they call it the no phone. It doesn't break. And it raised 6 grand. You can do kind of jokey, silly bullshit like that and have fun. So I guess kind of that's kind of thing as well. You know, we want people to have fun with this as well. So people aren't necessarily so worried about making the funding. It's more important, really, rather than the result. Although we want the result to be good, that people learn this stuff and feel confident enough to do it and do it and go through life aware that not, you know, like when I did the business courses and that, like UCD Innovation Academy, I went to these things thinking, what the fuck do I know? You know, I've got a fine art degree. But I found genuinely that when I was there, I was really good. Because being a creative thinker, having that kind of mind is a huge advantage if you're in that situation. So, yeah, you know what I mean anyway. I could waffle here like for all night. So I guess that answers your question. Well, I hope it does.
So it's not strictly art? Like.
Not strictly art, no, yeah. And yes? I can tell you about the name. The name Special Circumstance, it's a joke about the idea that being an art student is a special circumstance, but it's also a reference to Ian M. Banks' Culture novel. Ian Banks is a sci-fi writer who died, and I was very sad he died, so I wanted something to kind of as a nod to him. And in his book, it's set kind of in the future with an anarchist utopia, and Special Circumstance are like the CIA of this 19 trillion thing, and they go into countries and they kind of fuck around in it like an anarchist utopia CIA. I like the idea of calling it after an anarchist utopia like the CIA. It appeals to my sense of humour. Also, it means, you know, you might be able to print up a few I'm special t-shirts. Any other questions? Alright, good. Well, okay, in that case, I guess I'll wrap it up. I'll hang around for a while if people want to come up to me and talk to me afterwards. In terms of funding, no one asked a funding question, but we're looking at around 10 to 20. I'm willing to work in this very cheaply, but I will have to be paid, but I only want to pay myself about a jobs bridge wage. I don't want to take the piss. The other money will be used towards building the website, funding events, trying to get special guests and stuff like that. So, you know, just in case you think it's a scam or anything like that, it isn't. I'm a nice person, at least that's what I say to myself. So, yeah, there's that. Anything else? Yeah, I think that about covers it. So, yeah, there's the email address. I'm around. Thank you very much for your time. Hope I haven't bored you. And great. Cool. Good.